What's up, my comic comrades? Summer is usually major event time for DC and Marvel. DC, of course, has Dark Crisis underway, and now we're right on the heels of Marvel's latest big event, Judgment Day, which is a crossover event that features a war between the Eternals and the X-Men, with the Avengers stuck in the middle trying to keep these two powerhouses from causing massive destruction. The thing is, the overall story will be a culmination of storytelling that's been building across several titles, most importantly, the X-Men, Eternals, and Avengers titles. So today we're going to lay out the most important beats from those titles and give you everything you need to know leading up to this massive crossover. So let's get started on the road to Judgment Day. Leading off with the X-Men, they and the entire mutant population are currently living on Krakoa and able to travel there and back through flower gateways only mutants can use. We actually first saw the X-Men plant those flowers around the world in House of X issue 1. Anyway, Krakoa is a living island that used to sustain its environment by feeding on mutants. But now Krakoa and the mutants have a symbiotic relationship where the island only has to feed on a harmless amount of psychic energy from the large mutant population. And in return, Krakoa houses and protects its mutant inhabitants. It also supplies the flowers that the mutants use not only for gateways, but also as medicine to export to the humans. One of them extending human life, another being a universal antibiotic, and the last curing any human disease in the mind. In House of X issue 6, we see Professor X use these drugs to buy Krakoa's independence from the rest of the world, making the island its own sovereign nation state for mutants, along with making all mutants citizens of Krakoa from birth. The island society is run by the Quiet Council, made up of 4 factions. Winter with Exodus, Mr. Sinister, and Mystique, Spring with Emma Frost, Sebastian Shaw, and Kate Pryde, Summer with Nightcrawler, Storm, and Colossus, and Autumn with Professor X, Destiny, and Hope Summers. Hope is also a member of the Five, a group of 5 Omega-level mutants that Professor X put together for the mutant resurrection protocols. You heard that right, the 5 mutants together discovered that they are able to bring other mutants back to life through a using of their combined powers. However, that process was recently altered in the X-Men The Trial of Magneto miniseries, which we covered in its entirety here on the channel. You can check out those episodes right here, but to summarize, the important part for today's purposes, Wanda, better known as the Scarlet Witch, works with the Five to create a pocket dimension that collects the souls of dead mutants from the past, present, and future, essentially creating a mutant afterlife. This afterlife, called the Waiting Room, means the resurrection protocols aren't limited to what's backed up within Cerebro, essentially now making every mutant from the past, present, or future immortal, which is a pretty big deal. Then in the X-Men and Immortal X-Men comics, we see an X-Men team breaking up and each moving on to a new purpose, part of which is caused by Cyclops choosing to tell the world the truth about the mutants' newfound immortality through journalist Ben Urich. Meanwhile, in the Immortal X-Men issue 3, a newly resurrected Destiny is having issues with her powers in her resurrected body. Emma Frost says that Destiny is elsewhere, many elsewheres, so many visions, it's overwhelming. Then later, Destiny's mind rushes outward and gets a large vision of the future, a large statue on the left, the death of the X-Men on the right, and then front and center, a vision of a huge battle between the X-Men, Avengers, and Eternals. We then see a visual of how Destiny sees different timelines, with Destiny describing that all the timelines end in wars and horror. What's interesting is that one of the branches from the part of the timeline labeled now is named Judgment Day, with that branch leading to something called the Empire of the Red Diamond and then the Storm System. So that likely gives us a preview or hint of what follows Judgment Day. Anyway, Destiny ultimately goes to the Quiet Council and tells them a war is coming in weeks. We must all fight for our immortality. We must be ready. And the issue ends with Destiny writing everything she saw down like she did with her first vision years ago. And while we're on the topic of battling heroes, how about getting in a battle or two for yourself? You know, when you're looking to pass the time. Well, grab your favorite hero and take it to the Archdemon in the crazy fun mobile game, Hero Wars. First thing you need to do is click our link in the description and then download the game. Then you'll need a team of heroes to join the fight. There are a ton of cool heroes, but if you're looking for suggestions, I definitely recommend Celeste. She's a great fighter and a perfect fit in any team. Next, you'll want to try challenging an opponent online and put your team to the test in a PvP battle, because you gotta test those ranks. As you take home your share of wins, you collect sweet rewards that help you level up your heroes and prepare your team for the ultimate battle. Because in Hero Wars, even the most dangerous boss can be brought down with the right team of champion heroes. Join the game now and get a super chest with 5 top heroes, one of which is secret, as well as 600 emeralds and 30,000 gold. The game is available on any device, so just scan the QR code or tap the link in the description and start playing now. We'll see you in Hero Wars. Now let's get back on the road to Judgment Day. Now from the X-Men titles, we move on to the Avengers, and the most important Avengers information related to Judgment Day takes place in the first 8 issues of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It doesn't have a story arc title, so for simplicity, let's call it the Final Host storyline. Issue 1 starts off by quickly showing us an Avengers team from 1 million years ago, made up of ancient versions of the Phoenix, Iron Fist, Starbrand, Ghost Rider, Black Panther, Agamotto as the Sorcerer Supreme, and a young version of Odin, the All-Father himself. These Avengers had previously defeated a very weakened Celestial and were now staring down an army of more Celestials coming to Earth. We're then taken back to the present to see several of the Avengers, including Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, She-Hulk, and and Captain Marvel, all investigating energy fluctuations and strange occurrences on and around the Earth. The energy fluctuation turns out to be a portal, as a dead Celestial falls through hurtling towards Earth, while at the same time Black Panther and Doctor Strange discover millions of strange eggs near the Earth's core that start hatching into huge bugs that start attacking them. More dead Celestials start falling towards Earth, so heroes around the world work to keep them from falling on populated areas. One landing near She-Hulk when 3 Dark Celestials arrive on Earth, known as the Final Host. It's later revealed that Loki is the one that brought the Final Host to Earth, and over the next couple of issues, Loki explains to Captain America that the Celestials the ancient Avengers defeated 1 million years ago was called the Progenitor. It was weakened because it was the first Celestial to be infected by the bugs coming from the Earth's core, called the Horde. He further explained that life on Earth is a result of the dying Celestials' energy seeping into the Earth. Iron Man then went to the Eternals to get information on the Celestials, but finds they're all dead and in ruins. He finds Icarus barely alive, who says, "The truth tore us apart. We weren't here to protect you. We were to cultivate you. To the space gods, you are useful pathogens. Only you can be the cure," as he gives Tony the secrets of the Unimind. As the Avengers continue to fight the Horde and the Final Host, they start to put all the puzzle pieces together. The Horde was on Earth and multiplying because of the Progenitor, but the other Celestials didn't destroy the planet to get rid of the infection. Why? Because the Celestials needed a cure for the Horde, and humanity had the capacity for mutagenesis and superhuman change, so they could adapt and cancel out the Horde. The Celestials then commissioned Eternals to cultivate that change. A few million years later, the Celestials got their cure in the Avengers. Keep all that in mind because it will tie into the Eternals later. Anyway, once Icarus gave Iron Man the Unimind secrets, the Avengers combined their energies and powers to take control of a dead Celestial, then use it to destroy the Horde in one blow. Afterwards, in Avengers issue 8, Loki reveals that he put all this together to reveal the truth about humanity's existence, and to bring the Avengers back together. The Celestials then took Loki prisoner and thanked the Avengers by raising the Progenitor's body from under the ice in the North Pole for the Avengers to use as their new home base, which is another thing we'll see later in the Eternals. The Final Host storyline ends with Doctor Strange telling Black Panther that he'll only be a part-time member of the team, and the rest of the team unanimously agrees to make Black Panther the leader of the new Avengers, which now consists of Black Panther, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Ghost Rider, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. A few other notable items for the Avengers leading into Judgment Day are the addition of Blade to the team at the end of issue 12, Starbrand gaining a new host in Brandy Shelby in the Starbrand Reborn storyline, and the return of the Phoenix Force to Earth in the Enter the Phoenix Force storyline, where Maya Lopez, also known as Echo, is chosen as the new Phoenix. Then there are a series of events in Avengers issues 50 to 53 and the Deathlock storyline that start to overlap with the Eternals title. Most important being Jane Foster rejoining Avengers at Avengers Mountain, Black Panther asking Nighthawk to join the Avengers, and later we see that Black Panther steps down as chairman of the Avengers and takes a leave of absence to go back to Wakanda. This leaves us with an Avengers team comprised of Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Phoenix, Starbrand, Namor, Blade, Valkyrie, and Nighthawk. And it's probably safe to assume this is the team moving into Judgment Day. So now, let's move on to the Eternals. Eternals issue 1 starts off with Icarus being reborn, and the machine, which is an artificial intelligence the Eternals use that's built into the Earth, asks him to recite the essential protocols. Icarus responds, protect Celestials, protect the machine, correct excess deviation. And these protocols are important to keep in mind since they're all gonna get flipped on their head as the story goes on. Later in the issue, Iron Man actually meets Icarus and Sprite asking if they're gonna freak out again. As the machine narrates, Tony Stark is being Tony Stark. The last time he saw Icarus, the Eternal was dying in a pile of bodies. The Eternals had discovered that rather than the grand purpose they felt in every cell, they were merely a lid for a petri dish. The Celestials only cared for the humans. Their eons of sacrifice was for nothing. Their programming could not take it. Their society imploded in blood and death. In short, the Eternals went crazy and killed each other when they found out that they didn't have a larger purpose, and that their only job was to cultivate the humans to be the Celestials' cure for the Horde, like we saw in the Final Host storyline of the Avengers. It's also very similar to what we saw play out in the 2021 MCU Eternals movie. Back in the issue, the machine sums it up by saying Icarus is haunted. They had just discovered whatever use the Celestials have had for them is over. They have no purpose. Comic goes on to follow 2 storylines, the first following the Celestials as they figure out that Thanos got help from a traitor Eternal to murder the Prime Eternal, and the machine starts malfunctioning, so they have to learn to fight to stay alive while they figure out how to fix it. The second storyline follows Thanos as he learns that he's an Eternal and gets partially integrated into the machine by Festos. Thanos. However, he can't be fully integrated into the machine and be reborn because he turns out to be the only Eternal to become a deviant. So he recruits Druig to help him fully integrate into the machine. And Druig ends up rigging the Prime Eternal election to make Thanos the next Prime Eternal. It's a fantastic story and very much worth a read, but it's also a catalyst for us and the Eternals to learn the truth about their immortality. In issue 6, all the Eternals get together to interrogate Festos, having just found out that Festos has been the one helping Thanos, and was the person who sabotaged the machine. It's then that Festos reveals the cost of their immortality. Every time an Eternal dies and is reborn, the machine still needs to acquire the energy to bring them back to consciousness. To do that, it needs to take the life of a human. And Festos explains, the Eternals have no purpose. The Earth is protected by a grand array of heroes now. I thought that if I could truly stop the machine, it could end, but it can't. To stop the machine ends the world. We're trapped like this. We're trapped killing them. This mortifies the Eternals and they want to find a way to end it. But Festos and Cersei know that this has happened before, and when they tried to stop it before, they had their minds erased. Eventually, Thanos, now the Prime Eternal, captured Festos to torture him into explaining how to integrate him fully into the machine. And for the Eternals to have any chance of stopping him, they need to learn more about the Deviants and their purpose. This leads them to the last place they can talk with the Celestial, Avengers Mountain, which again is made from the body of the progenitor Celestial. This takes place in issues 10 through 12, where the overlap with the Avengers that I mentioned earlier begins. In issue 10, the Eternals break into Avengers Mountain and find where ley lines converge so they could speak with the remaining spirit of the progenitor. A.X.E speaks with the Celestial ghosts in their language while the other Eternals distract the Avengers, which leads to a pretty awesome fight in issue 11. Then in issue 12, A.X.E learns the true nature of the Deviants, saying she's learned the full schematic scriptures of the Deviants, the design goals, everything. And the Deviants, they're the important ones. The following data page explains that the Deviants change with the warping necro fluid of the progenitor. They were the important ones, as we learned in Avengers, being the cure to the Horde. But the process can make them go out of control, which is the excess deviation the Eternals are meant to control. So the Deviants don't destroy themselves, and like the Eternals, their purpose is complete. Now that they have the information they need, they tell the Avengers why they were fighting, and that they need to go stop Thanos. Of course the Avengers understand, but it does cause a lot of trust issues with the Eternals. Another thing that could become important in Judgment Day. Ultimately, the Eternals defeat Thanos, and Druig, who is mostly responsible for finally defeating him, becomes the new Prime Eternal. Druig, then seeking to restore purpose to the team, returns to the Eternals' internal programming of controlling excess deviation. So he sets the machine to search for excess deviation with the new information they have on deviants from the Celestial, filtering for the most powerful. And one spot on Earth comes up, the island of Krakoa, with the comic ending on the caption, "Next, Judgment." Now this already sets things up nicely for the beginning of Judgment Day, but there's one more important issue to go over, and that's 2022's Free Comic Book Day issue titled Judgment Day. We see that millions of years ago, the Eternal Uranos wiped out a civilization of mutant monkeys that had formed a primal hive mind, seeing it as an excess deviation. And Odin of the Avengers back then did nothing to stop it. Then back in the present, we see the Eternals continue that programming, helping the current Avengers defeat a monster created from excess deviation, with Cersei telling them after, "It wasn't a choice, Captain. When something deviates too much, we have to step in. Choice is for you mortals. We Eternals have duty coded in our every molecule." Which brings us to Krakoa, where we see Jack of Knives has infiltrated the island and has discovered the mutant resurrection protocols, witnessing the revival of Cyclops. Jack of Knives brings this information back to Druig, explaining that mutants and death aren't a thing anymore. And Druig responds, "Well, it depends on whether or not this very striking mutation is deviation." Jack of Knives asks, "And if it is deviation?" And Druig answers, "Jack, let's be honest, nothing we haven't done before." Ending the prologue to Judgment Day on a 2-page spread showing the X-Men and Eternals facing off, and the Avengers in the middle trying to keep the peace, with a caption at the bottom, "Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals, Judgment Day begins this July." And that's it, my people. Everything you need to know about the X-Men, Avengers, and Eternals going into Judgment Day, including why the Avengers don't trust the Eternals, how the mutants became immortal, as well as how and why the Eternals take the mutants' immortality as excess deviation, and why they think they have to correct it. It almost feels like the Avengers vs. X-Men story, but amped up a notch since they're throwing a third team into the mix. I'm very curious to see where this goes, because the end of this event is definitely going to set up something big going forward in the Marvel Universe, possibly even setting up what Destiny saw in the timeline with the Empire of the Red Diamond and the Storm System events. Obviously, we'll be covering the Judgment Day series once issue 1 drops, so stay tuned for that later this month to see where it takes the Marvel Comics universe. But what do you guys think? Have you guys been enjoying the massive amount of setup leading to Judgment Day? And are you excited to see what the crossover event brings? Let us know in the comments.
We also want to thank Hero Wars once again for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure to use our link in the description to download the game and pick up those great new player bonuses. On top of that, it lets them know you're supporting Variant, which we definitely appreciate.
First up for the week of July 20th, we have Miles Morales' Spider-Man 40. Miles' hunt through the Spider-Verse finally leads him to his long-lost uncle, Aaron the Prowler. But Aaron's a captive of Selim, Miles' evil spider clone. And if Miles wants to rescue his uncle, he'll have to bring down Selim's entire empire to do it. Now we have Star Wars Darth Vader issue 25. The Dark Lord of the Sith relentlessly tracks a corrupt Imperial governor. But is Vader still driven by his quest for order, or has his encounters with shades from the past awoken new motivations? Now we have Batman Superman World's Finest issue 5. In this issue, the first arc comes to an end while also giving a shocking foreshadowing of DCU events to come. Here we have Gunslinger Spawn issue 10. Everyone's always assumed Gunslinger was one of the weakest of the Hellspawns. Now he's able to show them just how wrong they were. Finally, we have A.X.E Judgment Day issue 1. Simply put, this brand new event and series will put the X-Men, Avengers, and Eternals in a three-way battle. Meaning, I'm in. And that's gonna bring today's episode to a close, but if you like this video, check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, like, subscribe, and comment. It always helps us out. But other than that, I will see you next time when I talk about all things comics.